Hey, Wade, good morning out there.
Morning, Rob. How's life treating you today?
I'm in the land of non-daylight savings time. So our show is late
Oh,
because something that one of the forefathers tried to do and save daylight by adding an hour, missing an hour. But you know what? We don't stop for clocks and we don't stop for anyone because today I am uber excited to have such a knowledgeable, learned individual. Okay. I've been following this guy for nearly a year now. And when I saw his book, The Grimoire of Practical Jewish Magic, I just had to get my hands on it, and he autographed it. He sent it to me. And not only is he a doctor of medicine, he's also one of those few occultists that speaks the common man English. Now, what do I mean by the common man English? He doesn't sound like a total retard or turd using highfalutin terms just to sound smart. He makes it understandable. Okay? So without any further ado, I am really honored to have our guest of honor tonight, the ever so hilarious, good-looking, learned Dr. Jeremy Weiss. Good evening, Dr. Weiss.
good morning, Dr. Weiss.
Hello to you both. Thank you for having me on Magic TV. This is a fantastic honor. Now, I just got freaked out to find out that now you've been following me for a year and a half. Jesus.
Well, to be honest, okay, I'm a connoisseur of occultists. Okay, I love reading and learning. The only problem is you're one of the only ones that actually make the topics digestible. I'd like to give those that credit to you and to Clifford Hartwig Lowe, who they have great content and a lot to learn, but the term Wade uses is it's not as chewy. So you can actually digest it easier. And I love your TikToks. I love the short videos you make. And that makes it a lot funner. And of course, when you're having fun, you're learning, right?
Yeah.
So it's an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much. And to start off with, tell us about you. How did you go from Dr. Livingston to Dr. Weiss, MD, Jewish Jedi? I mean, how did it become like that for you?
Well, I'm going to tell you a fascinating fact that you probably don't know, but it's not about me at all. Well, it is. The Clifford Lowe, who you mentioned, I think it is a cousin by relation.
Whoa!
You know? Yes, he's like a third cousin, and it actually relates to your answer as to who am I, and even who is Clifford Lowe. As it turns out, neither he nor I, well, I mean, he might have known, we're descended, and the reason that we're cousins is from a long line of very influential mystical rabbis. Mm-hmm. And Clifford Lowe is actually, the reason his last name is Lowe is because he's a descendant of Rabbi Judah Lowe. And you'll know that Rabbi Judah Lowe is the first person who created the golem.
Whoa.
Yes, the golem. Well, he wasn't the first person, but he is the most famous golem creator. And he created the golem of Prague, which in Prague, if you go, you can still go to Prague, the city of Prague and the synagogue, and the golem was created in the synagogue's attic. I have a picture of it in Prague. Yeah,
amazing. So just to get
the actual golem is there.
What?
They have the actual golem there.
Well, they won't let you go up, so no one knows. It's been sealed off.
Whoa. You never know. It might be doing some like Frankenstein work. So let's get to this. You're a medical doctor by profession, before or presently, or what? Are you still doing the whole clinic work and stuff?
No. I kind of retired from that a couple of years ago. I still have my license. I still keep my hand in it, so to speak. But I don't do that on a daily basis. No, mm-hmm. no longer. And I started. I'm a science guy. I actually have a little maybe introduction or a little biography in the book that you showed, mm-hmm. Which is also on my website, templeofmary.com. .com about Jeremy Weiss. And what happened to me was that I was a little boy. My mother was a Holocaust survivor. She was raised in a basement for the first 5 years of her life, trapped in Hungary, hidden from the Russians and the Nazis and all of that, and was moved to the United States. And then you met my father, and who also happened to be of a Hungarian descent, and they were cursed or blessed with me, or however. And unfortunately, as a child, I my father was like the first doctor, sort of in the family that I knew about, that we knew about. That's not true when I research it back, but and education was very, very important. So my parents said, I was very fascinated. I wanted to become a wizard. Whoa. And I wanted to become a superhero, and I wanted to become, Superman and Spider-Man and Batman. I wanted to be Batman.
Okay.
And every time I was being sent to religious school, and they were like, shut up, sit down, learn your prayers, and, and be a doctor like every good Jewish boy. And so I kept, asking. Luckily in Judaism, there is a strong tradition of asking questions. And I kept asking questions, even though they irritated the rabbis, which is what a good Jewish person is supposed to do. And they kept telling me, we have those secrets. We have those occult secrets that you're looking for, but and they're in the Zohar, and they're in these secret books that you're not allowed to read until you're 40. So maybe you should just shut the fuck up and sit down and read the lessons that we're trying to teach you, and learn Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daled, and the basics. Okay, because we're trying to teach it to you, but you want to jump ahead to flying. So by the time I was in 8th grade, of course, there was no flying, and I was still pissed off. So I totally abandoned religion and spirituality whatsoever. And I said, you guys are all a bunch of bullshit. You keep, it's a total bait and switch. You're like, you're promising me these magical secrets about, how to commune with God and angels. All this crap is going on and stuff like that. You won't teach me a damn thing. I still have to lug my shit to school. What kind of crap is that? Where are the flying cars? Damn it! And and so I said, I've had enough of you. I had bar mitzvahed, which is like the last obligation. That's usually the last time a Jew actually enters a synagogue. And then I just went and became a scientist, and I was a hardcore scientist, and then I became a vascular and interventional radiologist. I'm an atheist, which is, people are like, what? How can you be an atheist and religious at the same time? That's a disconnect. I've resolved that. That's not a problem. And then oddly enough, I still had the hobby of, as a physician, I had the hobby of still wanting to learn magic. And so as a little kid, I started with card tricks and legerdemain. And that's mostly because I was an only child. And that's what only children who are boys do to entertain themselves, particularly if they're socially awkward, like me. So I started to try to learn magic tricks to entertain others, and this annoying habit persisted until adulthood, when I realized that nobody's entertained by magic tricks, and that if you open the phone book, which is, there's no such thing as a phone book today, but at the time I realized that when you look in the yellow pages and you look under magicians, it said see clowns. So I realized that's no good. I don't want to. That's not what I'm interested. That's not what I'm interested in. So I kept trying to pare down. I didn't want to be a clown. I tried to pare down my Magick. And so the first step in eliminating my legerdemain and magic trickery was I decided to learn. I happened to grow up in Florida, where all of the people who work in the sideshow live in winter. And it happened to be in my neighborhood, near my neighborhood. And there's a little town called Gibson Town, which is filled with three-legged men and monkey boys and lizard skin people and, you know, obese people and fire eaters and dwarves. And the whole town is filled with
oddities.
You know, yeah. Well, they call themselves sideshow freaks. So if anybody gets offended by the word freak, please know that to the freaks that it is not as an offensive term, and they fought for the right to use that term. So I'm honoring them by calling them circus freaks. And they took me in and they taught me all of their tricks, which were not tricks at all. They were real magic, fire eating, and how to be impervious to pain, and how to walk over broken glass, and how to eat glass, and how to eat razor blades, and how to. And this was as close to magic as I was gonna get, as far as I was concerned, because this was real magic. This is real magic. Yeah. So then I got intrigued with the carnival act called Fool the Guesser, which is the guy that guesses your weight or guesses your age or guesses your names. And I realized that, you know, as a doctor, I'm just a really good guesser. I'm just like a really educated guesser. So my guesses are like mostly right, you know, when someone presents something to me. So there must be a method of becoming a really, really good guesser. And so particularly if someone had made an act out of it. So I decided, you know, being a good guesser would probably help me be a better doctor as well. So I then studied mind reading and mentalism, and I went to the greatest mind reader of all time, who happened to live in the city in which I moved to now, and he became my best friend. His name is Bob Cassidy, and through Bob, I then learned mind reading and mentalism, and then I had another transformation where I abandoned that entirely and became just a spiritualist.
Okay. So
that's the short story.
What triggered it? I mean, like, there's like, you just were, one day you were a Mentos and then you became like a Jedi. Like, wait a minute, what happened? I mean, like, is there a novel coming out that we should be waiting for? Like the lost years of Dr. Weiss? I mean, can you give us the short end of it?
All right, the short end of it is through because I'm very lucky and have led this bizarre life and able to meet all of these really interesting people, and then once you meet an interesting person, you're able to leverage that, right, to meet more interesting people, you know. So it just kind of like keeps going, right? You know, they're like, oh, you know so and so, I know so and so, and then that happens, right? So when I was with my mentor, my mind reading mentor, I became introduced to a woman who turns out is also my cousin and is the cousin of Clifford Lowe. And her name is Catherine Ironwood.
Whoa, I know her. Yeah. Okay, Catherine Ironwood. You got some pedigree in your blood, don't you? Please continue. She's the author of the Black Book. She's got some good stuff.
So Catherine became my mentor. And I still work with her. You know, I mean, I'm part of her organization. And Catherine, Miss Cat, she, for those who don't know, is a world-renowned author, publisher of hoodoo specifically, folk magic.
That Lucky Mojo, right?
Yes, she owns
Lucky Mojo.
Lucky Mojo and Lucky Mojo Publishing, and I'm giving her a big shout out. I love her. She's also happens to be a cousin of Clifford Lowe.
You guys got like the three of you are into this voodoo triangle. It's like, whoa, that's pretty cool, Wade. It's just like, damn. All right, please continue. So you met Catherine, and then she got you onto the whole magic, practical magic stuff?
and it was through Catherine and a lot of our discussions. Through Catherine and a lot of our discussions that I realized that there was Jewish magic, that Jewish magic existed, that it had crept into other magical practices such as hoodoo, which is African American folk magic, and that maybe I should really turn my attention back to the magic of my own culture. And that was always problematic because, like Christianity, like any of the Abrahamic faiths, okay, or let me back up, like any religion, okay, but like any religion, what I do is religion, and what you do is witchcraft.
Yeah.
Okay, and so they refuse to accept that there is witchcraft because what they're doing is not witchcraft. It's allowable. It has licentia. It's you're praying to God. You're doing this magical thing, but it's allowable. You pray to God, and then hopefully something happens. Well, I mean, that's magic. If we're gonna just distill it down, you're praying to a deity, something happens.
Yeah.
Okay. End of story. Well, you can call that magic or you can call that religion, and we can go down those different pathways, but it's the same activity, okay? Praying is the same activity as spell casting, okay? You're saying magic words. End of story. And when I realized that, I was like, oh my God, my entire religion, which I've been ignoring this whole time, they were right. It's filled with magic. And I started cracking open the Talmud and starting to read the books that they kept wanting me to read as a child. Now they've finally been translated into English, some of them, because and I realized, oh my gosh, I'm a freak. You could be a Jedi with this stuff. They weren't fooling around.
Came full circle. Well, a small digress. If you can convince Miss Catherine to be on the show, we would love to have her. As in, I'm a real fan of Lucky Mojo. I'm a real fan of her work. I got the Black Book. I got a lot of her hoodoo books. I love how she packaged it. So, I mean, it's some good stuff. So, I mean, if you can throw in a word for us, we'd love to have her. Right, Wade?
Okay.
Oh, you probably love the sword.
Yeah, I'd love that too.
She's got this whole compound out in the woods.
I published this book with her. This is
okay.
And Jeremy Weiss, and it's a Lucky Mojo book. So, yeah, we're big buds. Yeah.
It's epic. And I love the Lucky Mojo stuff. I love the packaging of the oils. I love the equipment. I love the books. All great stuff. So, okay. So you were ready. So the way I'm hearing you say it is that you were into hoodoo before you jumped into your regular practices, right? But then what made you choose to go really deep down the rabbit hole and focus on the Jewish magic and not go like Solomonic or Invocation or Golden Dawn? What was it about the Jewish magic approach that really this is my secret attack? I mean, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life in magic.
I mean, I guess because I had a very good, so because my mother was a Holocaust survivor, while my parents weren't very religious, it was important for my parents to indoctrinate me in Jewish culture. Okay, and so they sent me to a very intense Jewish day school. That's called a cheder. We were doing religious studies along with math and science and all that kind of stuff. And every day we had to, pray twice a day and the whole bit. I don't know. I just had like this. I was like reading stuff and I was like, wait a minute, why is this magic and why is this one religion? Because they're asking, you know, they're accomplishing the same thing, and they're using the same methods, and I don't see. I just started to think of it as a scientist, and as an anthropologist, really. Like, I don't see much of a difference here, and so and then I had the advantage of this background. So most of the time, I'm reading works about Jewish magic, but they're unfortunately not written by Jews who have immersed themselves in complete understanding of what's going on. So a lot of times the letters are wrong, or the interpretation is not right, or something is missing. And I found myself, oh my gosh, you know, I read Mathers and I was like, this dude is smoking crack. He's got, you know, like, what's going on? He barely knows Hebrew. How is it that his thing has become like huge? Because any Jew with a basic, you know, like 5th grade understanding of Hebrew would look to that particular sigil and say, that's wrong. So that's what happened to me. I was like, these people.
So you really you went back to the cores of it. In other words, you went back to the fundamentalism of it, not the bastardization of it. Like, I want to know the original, right? And that's what inspired your practice?
Both. I mean, I went to figure out, well, what were the Jews doing? And then I also was intrigued by, like, why is there all this Jewish stuff in other magical practice? What do they think we're doing? And if they think we're doing that, how would we really accomplish what they want, what they think we're doing? And the answer is, well, that would be the wrong spell. The right spell would be the Da'at prayer, you know, that sort of thing.
All right, I have a question, because, of course, like I said, I'm probably the only guy in the country with a copy of this, a very great book. And, of course, when I went to the spells, amulets, and ritual segment, you have a whole list of different books here that are abbreviated. Like, you have the Amulets and Magic Bowls, Book of Abramelin, Cairo Geniza. Now, did you intentionally leave the necessary texts out of this book? Or is it part of the culture to have to collect all of these books in order to fully appreciate the spells in this book?
No, I wanted to, but the problem is it's just too massive. There's 800 spells in that book, and the problem is that I couldn't figure out, like, okay, so let me get.
Well, the book would probably be the size of the original Golden Dawn thing, the giant doorstop edition. That's like the bigger than the unabridged dictionary. Exactly. It would be just a massive book.
The deadly weapon, I call it.
Exactly. I'm going over to my library, and the problem is this. Here's the problem. So the problem is that, okay. Do you see that? Okay. You see that these?
Those are the Zohar.
That's the Zohar. It's one book. It's one book. So, I mean, I can't include that in a book. All I can do is say, hey, if you want to learn how to fly, go to that book as I'm referenced. It's page, 89 or whatever. But and I don't just do that so that my book is not just a list of books. I mean, if by happenstance I can include the actual spell, it's in there, right? The spell is in there. You may have to do a little bit of digging or whatever, but it's for sure there. It's for sure. Oh, these books, by the way, this book, this is just so you know, this is a series of books. Okay, it's 4 volumes. This is everybody related to the Lowe family up until today. The Maharaj, yeah. So Clifford's in there.
This is already a sign for Clifford to get on the next show. I've been begging him to get on. I love his work. All right, now I have a question for you, okay? Because in Magick.tv, we want to kind of like reconcile as many beliefs as we can. And one thing I was happy to see is that in your book, you did mention and reference to sacred magic, the Book of Abramelin. So what I wanted to ask is, is a procedure, the practice, or even the rite of the Abramelin, the working, is it the same in your practice? The way that we're used to saying the 6 months, locking yourself, not taking a bath, 6 to 18 months, as like Mathers recommended it, or is there a different approach of what you guys do? And I just wanted to pick your brain about that because as a Jewish magician, I'd want to go straight to the source.
Yeah, the whole Abramelin operation. I haven't honestly tackled that that huge issue because it's it's clearly based on it. It seems to be something that has taken on a life of its own, and you see that in OTO people who have based magical systems on the book of Abramelin, and really that operation, if you want to call it, is based on what's called the Hekkelot literature, and that literature is early Jewish literature after the Bible, but in what we call the Talmudic period. And so think of that as like from year 200 to year 7 or 800, or 200 to 1500, say. And that literature, the Hekkelot literature, is filled with operations just like this one. Okay. And they're all as equally complex and difficult. And I don't know that I see the Abramelin operation, which has gained so much notoriety and fame. Everybody has heard, and people, you say it and it has a name, I don't see any real difference between that and any of the other rituals in the Hekkelot literature, really.
So what you're telling me, Doctor, is that the Abramelin could have a sister working, like probably the Weissawellen or the Wadawellen and the Robawellen. In other words, in this Hekkelot literature you're talking to us about, there could be other rituals similar to the Abramelin that can give several similar effects. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we have hundreds. I'm just, where's that book? I thought I brought the book over here for you. Hold on one second.
I never even knew that. And like to think that like everybody's been obsessing over the Abramelin and like there's like potentially other workings exactly like it that we haven't even discovered yet. That's amazing. That's like a Magick.TV first.
Well, let me ask you, what's the function of the Abramelin operation? What's the main
knowledge
function?
And conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel, or discover your Holy Diamond.
Exactly. Okay, so to commune with angels. So my assistant saw that I was looking for the book that was supposed to be here. Apparently, it was absconded with, and she's coming with it right now. I'm going to show you a book, the Hekkelot literature. It's filled with all of that. I mean, it's filled with. There we go. And this is a
literature. Okay, I am so gonna. Okay.
So you can see it's a Brill book, and see this kind of stuff is. So this is how I gravitate. I am really not interested in the mysticism, in popular mysticism. Okay, yeah. I mean, I have friends who write for Llewellyn and stuff like that, and it's a great company, and they do introduce a lot of fantastic, ideas to the public. But once you really want to actually become an expert and stuff, it's time to abandon that and go to the anthropology literature, okay? And for all the people out there who don't want to do the hard work, I'm really sorry that you want to do this Abramelin ritual, which takes 6 months and all this shit and denial of this and fasting and blah, 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 but you don't actually want to read an anthropology book. I don't know why you've made that choice, but my recommendation is that you actually bust open an anthropology book, and you'll see the same. You see the same chapter 4, and then you see the same stuff on the top that you would see in the names of the angels and stuff like that. And this is listed with, tons of different methods that people have written down for the very purpose. And then it's broken up into, here's a dialogue between the angels and God. And then this is what I like in books, because I'm a science guy. I'm the doctor. I want references. If you're going to say something, really, I want to be able to look that crap up myself and see if I agree. And so you can see half the book is footnotes. That's
Dr.
what
Weiss,
I'm talking about.
I got a text coming in from Leo, and he's asking, amazing topic, Dr. Weiss. Do you have to be a Jew to practice these things?
No. So I love that question. I love that question. That is my favorite question. And it's my favorite question. And it's this answer. This is the answer. I wrote this book because it's for Jewish magic for everyone. And here's the reason it's for everyone. People ask me that all the time. Okay. And it's because Judaism is very difficult. It's both a religion and a genetic ethnicity. Okay? Very hard for people to wrap their head around that, because you can have people like myself who are genetically Jewish. When I take the test from Ancestry.com and FTDNA, the results that I get back are 99% Jewish. And I go, the fuck does that mean? That's a thing? Yes, it's a thing. Jews, there is a genetic ethnicity of Jews, and we are subject to different diseases like Tay-Sachs and different things. So there's a genetic line, but there are also, and there are people who are in that genetic line that don't believe the religion. So they have the genes to be Jewish, but maybe they've decided to be Buddhist.
Okay.
We've got plenty of those. And the reverse is true. Maybe you have a person who's genetically Christian, but they decide that they want to, maybe they're
Hindu,
Trinidadian, okay, Native American, whatever you want, Inuit, and they decide they want to practice Judaism. They're no less a Jew than a born Jew, according to the Jewish tradition. They're in fact considered to be more Jewish than the born Jew, because they actually chose to become
the choice.
So
I have another text coming in, Dr. Weiss.
Wait. I gotta finish that. And say all it takes to be a Jew is to do Jewish things. Like if you do the Sabbath and you did the Sabbath and you did it like a Jew, I don't see that as any different than acting like a Jew. You're a Jew. You're being a Jew.
Walk like an Egyptian. All right. Somebody's asking here. Stephen is asking, is this the same as Kabbalah? Yes or no?
No. Good. Another fantastic question. So Kabbalah specifically, a lot of people has now become a modern catchphrase for all of Jewish magic. And it's because, people, what do you want? The subtleties are lost on people. Kabbalah is a specific magical practice of Judaism, which started in the 11th century in Provence and Spain. Okay, and it is a practice within Judaism. Now, clearly, there was magical practices before the Kabbalah, before the 11th century, right? And there are magical practices that continued while the Kabbalah is still going on that are outside of the Kabbalah. So Kabbalah is one of many magical practices, and I would call the umbrella term, rather than Kabbalah, I would call it Jewish folk magic. You've got Jewish folk magic, and contained within Jewish magic is the Kabbalah.
Amazing. Because see, my very first exposure to any kind of Jewish magic, aside from, of course, the typical Golden Dawn, Holy Names of God, etc., was through a book that was placed on the internet by a guy named Robert Ambelain called Practical Kabbalah, versions 1 and 2. Now, whatever John Constantine research that I dug up, the reason I found the words Practical Kabbalah, because my research showed that Practical Kabbalah was also known as Kabbalah Ma'asif, which was actually forbidden, that you couldn't practice it, you couldn't use it. All right, it was like Kabbalah Ma'asif, no good. So that the minute they told me you couldn't do it, I was digging up on it, and I found a working in there, which was kind of hinted upon by an author named Mark Stavish in his book Beyond the Gates, called The Ritual of the Spoken Word, in which every day you would have to do a certain number of psalms at a certain time and instill each letter of the Hebrew alphabet into you. And the intention is that afterward, your power of spoken word is so much more powerful. And I'm not talking about spoken word as like the poetic stuff they do on YouTube. It's like spoken fucking word. So if I say, you're going to be rich and famous, Dr. Weiss and Wade, you're going to be rich and famous. Okay. The thing is, in Stavish's book, he didn't give the full complete terms. He just gave like 60% of it. There's like even a table and stuff you have to create. And that was actually discussed in Ambelain's Practical Kabbalah. So have you ever come across anything like this ritual of the spoken word?
Very timely that you should ask such a question, because recently I wrote very much about that. There's okay, so you have to understand that Magick has a dividing point very early on. You have to decide in the practice of your magic whether or not it is the intention that is important for as the praxis of your magic, or is it the spoken word? Is the word itself the magic that has that is the thing that causes the action to happen? And the Jewish people have landed on the side of a logocentric magic, that the magic is in the word itself, and this is why the very first magical action, which occurs in Genesis, is and God said, "Let there be light." It's an act of spoken word that creates everything. And then you get to Isaiah 55:11, which is essentially abracadabra. May the words of my mouth manifest as I speak, manifest whatever I speak. So early on, the decision was made that the language itself is magical. And this is why when I was a little boy, we in Judaism, you pray in Hebrew. And we all pray in Hebrew, no matter where we are. But of American Jews, none of us know Hebrew. Okay? None of us speak Hebrew. We speak English. All right, but we go and we pray in a language that we don't understand. Why? And I asked when I was 8 years old, why? Why are we doing that? Doesn't God understand English? Why can't I? Why do I have to pray in Hebrew? It's stupid.
I agree with that.
I don't understand. And they all said to me, "It's the words." They said, "Sit down, shut up, and say the words." That's what they were saying to me, and I didn't realize it. They would say, "Have you heard Abraham Abulafia, the mystic?" And I would say, "No." And he would say, "Well, the words are the important things." And I would be like, "So I don't even have to understand what I'm saying?" And they're like, "Right, yeah." And you're like, "Whoa, that makes no sense whatsoever." But they,
Crowley had a thing about that. He had this this concept of the barbarous names of evocation.
That's right.
That you would have everything that you're trying to do with specific sounds for each element of it, almost like a verbal sigil. And that if you keep using these words, it doesn't have to mean anything. It's just the effect that it has in your brain hole of having composed these words, and then you recite them out is what does it. It doesn't have to be a language you would actually speak.
Right. It's the power.
I've known people that do it in token languages. that they have their things all written out, even though they don't speak Orcish or Elvish. They have their rituals in that.
It's like Enochian as well. I mean, good luck trying to fully.
Actually, at Theacon, there was a initiation that was done in Klingon.
Oh, whoa!
And it was really something. It was really something.
I can see that. So, to get back to your original question, which is about the alphabet and stuff like that. Have I ever seen anything like that? And I said I had just written about that, which is that because of the logocentric nature of Jewish magic, we have a lot of inherent into Jewish magic are these magical squares, notericon, reductive notericon, and these are methods that were adopted into other cultures about how to evoke demons, how to get rid of demons, right? And by you write their name and then you subtract their one letter from their name and you subtract another letter and then another letter and then the demon goes away, or vice versa. And that's the same thing as the abracadabra, the abracadabra amulet.
It's like what they did with the golem, right? Where like the inscriptions had life, but by like adding or removing a letter, it neutralized it. Okay.
100%. You are 100% correct. 100%.
We have a question on the chat line from Miss Regina. It said, "Is there a magical usage for the morning and evening Shema?" Thank you.
Yes, yes, and that's Shema, and I'm going to get to that, but I'm still haven't even gotten to answer the first question that you did, which is in my blog, the book of Raziel. Because of all this fancy stuff, a lot of stuff has been written up in this acrostic type, and so for each letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the angel Raziel gave us a tenet for each letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and I have that in my blog. And that idea about each letter standing for something also carries over into the Aleph Bet of Ben Sirah, which is the text where we find out that Lilith was actually Adam's first wife, not Eve. So the Aleph Bet of Ben Sirah is arranged in that same acrostic fashion where each Hebrew letter or Aramaic letter is meant to be an element or a meaningful statement, a mystical statement that you need to understand. And so the Shema, the magic of the Shema. The Shema is one of the most holy, for those who don't know, it's one of the most holy prayers, or you could say spells. I'm not offended. In the Jewish tradition, it's very short. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, which means, and it's just a restatement of monotheism, which is that, here's our God. Our God is one. And that's it. God is one. There's one God. And it's shunning henotheism or polytheism or any of that. And it is meant to be a protective. So, you can say it in the morning. You can say it at night. And as far as I'm concerned, you need absolutely nothing special to say it. It was, it's a magic statement.
Dr. Weiss, I just got to say this is coming from the heart, but speaking to you, it's like you're like an Indiana Jones character, that? I mean, I don't know. Do you feel the same way that we're talking to like one of Indiana Jones's friends, like the guy he met in Israel? It's like the hidden temple of Solomon. I'll take you to it. It's just like, it's just so amazing. And you make it so fun. Now, somebody's asking a question. I'm Filipino. Can I practice Jewish magic? And you said, yes, for everyone. So it's going to bring me to my next question. We're going to go to the Jon Stewart segment, occult updates, which is, I love this book, but I wanted to ask you, since I'm probably the only one with a copy, order it from templeofmiriam.com and get it autographed. If you could recommend one spell for me to crack in this book, like, you got to go to page blank, that's what you want to start with. You're the author, you made it. What would you say? Because I see a lot of good stuff, like how to evoke angels or stuff like that, but a lot of them that require certain things that I don't have. So if you would say like the one thing, the like top of the menu, what would you say, Dr. Weiss? Because I know Wade wants to try it when he gets his copy. It's just like,
yeah.
One spell. You know, the problem with that is that the one spell that I would choose would be for peace and happiness.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Okay.
And I mean, because the whole point of this is what we call in Judaism tikkun olam, which is repair of the universe, to restore balance. And that's what we're trying to aim for, to restore balance and happiness and peace. And I was very pleased when I wrote that book and did all that research and put those 800 spells in there, that I was very pleased to see that there is a very small amount of magic for hatred and causing trouble. And there's a large amount of magic in there for causing peace and love. That was a really interesting perspective that writing that book gave me. When you do a survey of the literature and you try to gather up every known spell of a culture, like every known spell, you realize there's only 4 spells for one thing, but there's 700 spells for another. You kind of think, that kind of means something. It means either those 4 spells were really effective and they didn't need any more, right? Or whatever that problem was really wasn't a really big deal for them, but something else was. So I see a lot of spells around eye disease and a lot of spells for hearing. I saw only one spell in the Jewish tradition for cheating at gambling.
Okay.
And I was so proud of that. I was so proud of that. And the fact that there was only one spell for cheating, but there were, so if I were to pick a spell, it would be in the section of love.
Of loves, and that's for peace. All right, for those of you tuning in, send some stars. I'll ask Dr. Weiss after the show exactly which one it is, and you send us a message after you send us some stars, and I will tell you, because you know what really caught my eye, the one I want to give a try, is actually the angelic evocation and control. And we'll talk about that later on, because I was like, are these things that you really want to be toying with if you have this book? Or do you need a little bit more juice in your belt before you jump into this? Because you don't want to have like a Necronomicon breakdown. So the next part of the show, we're just first going to start by giving you a round of applause and a cheer. Thank you very much, Dr. Weiss, because that was a lot of interesting
Thank you.
Also, spells to make hatred among human beings is kind of like spells to make water wet. I mean, you don't really need that because we have it all the time.
Yeah.
You got to turn on Fox News and you get enough of that. All right. So the next segment is what we call basically it's the current events of what's going on in your part of the woods, your practices. We've been doing this with all the different authors and topics, speakers and stuff like that. You're into Jewish magic. You're into hoodoo. What the fuck's going on in your neck of the woods? Are you happy with the standards? Do you think they're dipping? Are you an avatar of the new golden age? What is it? What's going on with your practices right now as a whole?
I knew you were going to ask me this question because you said that you were going to ask me this question, but I don't understand the question. What you're asking is what's the state of Jewish magic? Then I guess. And the state of Jewish magic is that most Jews don't understand that there is Jewish magic and wouldn't characterize what they're doing as magic because they would think that is an egregious mischaracterization, and they just want to go to temple and pray, be nice, and be left alone. But and they see me as a little bit of a disruptor because I'm pointing out that when we do our Passover Seder, right, which is where we talk about the Exodus from the land of Egypt, led by Moses against the Pharaoh, and we invite the spirit of Elijah into our Seder and have a drink with him, that is necromancy, which is forbidden in the Bible. And they've totally if you go to any Jew and say, is necromancy forbidden? They say yes. And if you say, do you have a drink with Elijah on Passover? They say, of course. And they don't understand that those two things are really in direct opposition to each other, right?
We ask any Catholic if necromancy is bad. You ask the Catholics, and they'll go, absolutely, it's bad. Now I'm going to go and leave offerings for the saints, and I'm going to pray to them for help. Exactly. It's the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I go, they say necromancy, it's evil, it's impossible. And I say, really? So why do you pull out a chair for Elijah to sit down at every bris? Mm-hmm. You know, and they say, well, we got to conjure the spirit.
Oh, and that's not necromancy.
Spirit, are you?
They just like to repackage it. But like, I wanted to ask, like, do you see more people taking interest in the Jewish magic side of things, or does the whole Madonna Kabbalah going on distract them from the potentials within these kind of practices? Is it like something that, do you think in like 5 years there's going to be more Dr. Weisses like you, or do you think that like you're the last Obi-Wan Kenobi of your kind and you're just trying to reignite the order?
I have no idea. All I know is that I'm definitely sort of on my own. Okay. I'm really on my own. You've got, essentially whenever you have a religion, right, you've got an organized religion. And unfortunately, Judaism is, I would say it's a disorganized religion, because there's many factions and many things. So they fight amongst each other. But what are they all fighting about? They're all fighting about licentia and who's allowed to perform these rites and rituals, and who among us is not allowed to perform them. And meanwhile, I am a renegade because I believe that whatever power that is given to a priest or a rabbi or special representative of the church, whatever the church is accessible to the layman. And that the only difference between religion really and magic is that religion has three parts. It has a deity, it has a laity, and unfortunately it has a clergy. And the clergy's job is to moderate the laity's access to the deity. And when you have magic, there's no clergy. You're the clergy. You have the deity, and we've cut the clergy out. It's just me and the deity. And as far as I'm concerned, that is the way it should be. So anything that a priest or a rabbi, any special power that they have been given is accessible to me and you, and needs to be accessible to the common person. And remember that God, Yahweh, the universal being, deity, whatever you want to call it, right? Even in the Jewish tradition, you want to be narrow, just stay within the Jewish tradition. He spoke that calling, he spoke to non-Jews. He gave prophecies to the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh had to call someone else, to interpret it. It doesn't mean that God then spoke to not even a Jew, right? Not even a rabbi, right? Not even so. Why do we even need? We don't need that clergy to get in the way of our personal relationship with a deity. That's my feeling, and that's why I become a renegade. Because how do you build a congregation of followers when you're telling everybody you don't need to follow anybody?
You're making it open source.
Do it yourself.
Yeah, you're making it open source.
Yeah, you need to do it yourself. You.
Hey, wait, it kind of sounds like he's like the chaos magician of Jewish magic. You know what I mean? It's like, fuck all the orders. Do it yourself and let God answer you directly.
Yeah, it sounds almost like the gun control debate, when some people are saying, well, this is a fundamental right in the Constitution. Everyone should be able to carry a gun. And other people are like, well, no, we need to be able to limit who has it. They need to have special training. They got to have special licenses. And someone else is just like, no, fuck that. I have a gun. And there's really nothing that can be done about it except legally. And I could see both sides of the argument.
Yeah,
maybe you don't want somebody out there happy assholing around with all this magic. Nevertheless, they're doing it. And you just kind of have to deal with that.
Since we're talking on the topic of Jewish magic, and I honestly wish David Stolowitz was here because he's a real advocate of this as well. He's a previous guest of ours. One of the books that I came across was one of the books of Moses. And somewhere in there, I think 7th or 8th book of Moses, there's a working to commune with God. Have you heard of this? And the question is, how the fuck do you do that? I asked Stephen Skinner about that, and he said that's the equivalent of an ant trying to summon a gardener. Okay, so what's your take? Like in the 7 books of Moses, you can actually summon God. I mean, the shit I'd throw at him if I could get him in a magic circle. I'm like, what the fuck, man? So like, what's your take on working like that? Is this something that like magicians should aspire to, or is this like, what's your take on it? Because it always fascinated me.
I guess that is really, I would say that the summoning of God is not a problem. I would say the problem there is your expectations of response.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I have no problem crossing my arms and telling him to come here. Mm-hmm. I need help, or I need to talk. So, and I need to commune with the universal deity. I have no problem with that. But you know, that doesn't mean just because I get an opportunity to voice what I have to say, it doesn't necessarily it doesn't ensure that there's going to be an impact or a response to what I say.
Good point. So like you could attempt it, but it doesn't necessarily mean you'll get a response, right? Like how many people send the president letters every day? I get it.
Yeah, like in the Tempest, and he says, I can summon spirits from the vasty deep. And they're like, well, yes, anyone can. But do they come when you call? And a lot of it is just being able to tune yourself into listening. So it's not so much the idea of summoning them. Like I've got, you know, all of my dead friends, all of my non-alive friends just kind of hanging around. It's not a matter of whether or not you can call them, because you can call anybody. But are you listening? And I think a lot of these rituals are to get you in the headspace to listen.
Well, that is the whole basis for reading omens, right? Omen reading, which I also just wrote about on my blog. Reading omens are signs and messages that are left for you by the divine. Spring has come. I mean, you can make it very, very basic and scientific, right? Spring is coming because we see the leaves are, you know, the buds are out. Okay, fall is coming because now the leaves are starting to change. That's an omen that I read. Oh my gosh, I feel the barometric pressure dropping. I know there's a storm coming. I'm reading the message that was sent to me, and it could be that the message, which is this cat sitting on a window, is actually a message from God telling me, like Stephen Berkowitz or the son of Sam, to go do naughty things to my neighbor. But did I read that omen correctly? Okay, and so your power, it is in part your power to read omens correctly. You know, that is important. But around you, all the time, there are messages all around you.
Are you familiar with the Oath of the Abyss? Part of that whole thing is when it says, "I will interpret every phenomenon as a particular dealing of God with my soul." That you actually go with that everything that happens around you is something that it's some form of communication directly to you, and it's a matter of interpretation at that point.
Yes, stola semantics.
Because there's no useless things in the universe. Nothing is useless. Yeah. It's just a matter of whether or not you've interpreted the meaning correctly.
Correctly, that's right. That's right. And so that's what I think is really interesting is that, you know, it's within the grasp of anybody to read omens. right?
That's a very fascinating topic. I'd love to learn that from you, how you do it, because that's something that could really be applied to people in the community so that they don't like misinterpret the omens they see. Like, it's so ridiculous nowadays. People say, "Oh God, the microwave said 222 and I'm wearing green and I shit my pants. God must be angry at me." It's like, yeah,
yeah, but that is in fact that is the fact the problem. That's where that's also the problem with gematria, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look too closely, you can go insane. You can start seeing things and making connections where there are none. And stolisomancy, which I'm versed in, is a perfect example of that. Like historically, where Caesar, put the wrong shoe on in the morning and knew that he was going to lose a battle because he put it on the wrong foot. Right? And it's an interpretation of a sign, a message.
That's cool. Wow. So, anyhow, thank you for sharing that. We're also going to give you another cheer here. Thank you for that. And of course, the last part of the show, favorite part of everybody, Occultex, where the best of the best teach something straight out of the wizard's hat. I gave you free reign. Whatever you'd like to teach us and our audience, it's up to you. But I am very eager to learn from this man. Aren't you, Wade?
Oh, okay, absolutely.
All right. Do you want me to teach a specific spell?
Yeah, anything that's helpful that that anybody who's listening can give a try and make it practical. Unless, of course,
okay. All right, I'm gonna do perfect. All right, you want to make it practical? All right. So this is a book that just came out a couple of weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe less than 2 weeks ago. It's a book I translated. It's called Sefer HaTzadikim. Sefer means book. Ha is the, and tzaddik is a Jewish concept of a miracle worker. And we have this idea that there are 36 tzaddiks among us at any given point in time. And the Messiah will be one of those 36, okay? Those 36 people, they don't even know who they are, but they are considered to be so righteous, so absolutely righteous, that they are working on behalf of God and good, that they are allowed to practice magic. They are essentially the Jewish Jedi that we were talking about before. So the Jewish, so those are tzaddiks, and this is the handbook of magic for tzaddikim, for tzaddiks, which I translated. And the chapter 2 is what I'm gonna teach you, because I think it's the best and most important thing. And this is the priestly benediction. Okay, it is how to bless someone. And a lot of us, I will tell you that really blessings come back on us. One day, a friend of mine and I decided that whatever was going to happen, we were just going to go around and offer people blessings. And we got up in the morning and we went to the coffee shop, and we were in New York, and we were like, "Would you like a blessing?" And the owner was like, "Sure." So we gave him a blessing, and he was overjoyed. And then as we were walking down the street, people were like, "Can you give me a blessing?" And then we were walking down the street, and there was a whole crowds of people asking for blessings, and we were just like blessing everybody, and they were all thankful. And then we turned around and went back to the store in the evening, and they were like, "Oh my God, I had the best sales day ever. You guys gotta bless me every day." And it was just clear. It was just very clear that the blessing propagated throughout the whole neighborhood for no reason other than us being joyous and deciding that we were going to spread joy that day. So it is very powerful. The earliest, this is called the Birkat Kohanim. It means it's the blessing that's given by the high priests in Judaism, and in fact, it is given. It has made transformations into many religions, and is the priestly benediction that's given by the Pope, and there's a variation of it in Islamic culture and in Baha'i, and it is in fact the blessing is against the evil eye, and it was written it's on the oldest amulet ever found, which is in Keter Himonim, and it has a tubular amulet to be worn against the evil eye. It's also the origination of this hand configuration by our dear friend Leonard Nimoy, Spock,
Vulcans.
Yes, who was an Orthodox Jew and took this hand position because he found it to be such a phenomenally religious experience when he was receiving the priestly blessing as a child when he would go to temple. So the priestly blessing is written in a very standard Jewish format for spell writing. No rabbis will ever tell you this, but it's a 3-word, 5-word, 7-word blessing, and but of course I'm going to give it to you in English. And like I said, it's Numbers 6, verse 24 through 27, and it goes like this. You do it with your fingers tucked. Here, I got to do it on screen. And you look down. You don't look at the person that you're blessing, and you say, and I've changed it a little bit because everybody believes in a little bit different God, and some of us, like myself, are atheists. So I say, may your God. Nobody wants to be blessed by everybody else's God. They want to be blessed by their own God. So may your God bless and protect you. May your God always deal kindly and graciously with you. May your God bestow favor upon you and grant you peace. Amen. Amen. Selah.
Damn. And that like boosts the good juju, right?
Definitely super good juju. Mega juju.
We need that. I mean, wait, I could literally, if I recorded and memorized everything you said with the hand gestures, even I could do this, right? I don't need to be Jewish or anything. I'm okay to do this?
You're okay to do this? I even have it on your YouTube video. If you ever feel the need to be blessed, you can just click on the YouTube video and I will bless you.
No, I'll call you via Facebook Messenger. You can bless me again. We have a message on the chat line. We have from Miss Regina, and says, Dr. Jeremy, thank you for sharing Shimush Telim's personal psalm. According to the birth date, very effective. I use my personal psalm along with my Catholic prayers, so thank you for that. And also, another person, somebody said, that's awesome. Somebody said, he's got the coolest glasses. Yep, he's got the coolest. The beard, too. I mean, that hasn't been paid attention to.
Epic beard. Absolutely epic.
I'm the one who never can grow a beard. I don't know why.
It's only like 6 months old.
Jeez, it's like I've had 6 months, nothing comes out. That's a very easy.
Is there a spell for that? Is there a spell for that to get them? Nice.
There is. There's a whole spell book for it.
Well, anyhow,
Dr. Weiss, it looks like my chin is on fire. There's just a little bit of smoke coming off of this. I need the epic beard going on.
From the bottom of my heart and the bottom of the viewers and cast behind Magick.tv and Wade included, I wanted to thank you for teaching us that beautiful blessings. I'm going to be doing that like crazy to spread the positive juju. Now, unfortunately, the show is coming to an end, but we're not going to let you go. I want to pick your brain on some things. Regina is saying, one of your fans here, saying, thank you for the priestly blessing. Very powerful energy. I can feel the Holy Spirit, Shekinah, during your blessing. And I felt it too. And guys, if you guys want to order his books, I do want to get my hands on that Jedi Handbook of the Zadki. I really want to practice that because, like, I wanted to ask you, well, how does one become that? But that's going to be on the private segment between the three of us. So, can you link to his YouTube on YouTube? Yeah, it's under Temple of Miriam, right?
Yeah.
Just go templeofmiriam.com and it's all there. I already posted it here.
All there.
There you go. So it'll take you where you need to go. So anyhow, we're going to close the show now. Please follow him. Buy his books. Support him. Follow him on Facebook, on TikTok. Hilarious guy. Got a lot of stuff to work with, but I'm sure we're going to have him again. But we have to close the show now because Wade and I want to have our own personal time with Dr. Weiss. But before we let you go, Dr. Weiss, thank you for coming to the show. Do you have anything you want to say to our viewers about your experience tonight?
Yes. I want to say I'm Dr. Jeremy Weiss. And I'm on Magick TV.
Thank you so much, Dr. Weiss. You're an officer and a gentleman. See you again soon. We're ending the show, but please don't go anywhere.